There's a reason that AMC's The Walking Dead is such a cultural phenomenon that is able to entertain such a wide variety of people. I know that my parents love watching the zombies, as they call it. It can really get into all of the intense drama and zombie bashing galore that the show is known for. They don't like anything that my sisters and I enjoy, so seeing them eagerly wait for Sundays to watch this show as some new family bonding ritual is pretty intense, and it's pretty breathtaking as well as interesting. The show kind of transcends just entertainment. Regardless, the reason it has become such a cultural movement is because it really explores a key concept that all humans struggle with. How does the world continue when all hope is lost, when threats are all around you, and you are left to ponder the nostalgia of yesterday's world? The Walking Dead is some pretty heavy shit. Well, if you love the show or are turned off to it because of the heavy excess of zombie pop culture today, don't let it deter you from the smart, keen, and beautifully illustrated Walking Dead comic series where the show came from. Robert Kirkman's and Tony Moore's first volume of The Walking Dead, Days Gone By, is not only arguably the most important zombie comic ever conceived, but it's just masterful storytelling that you become invested in. Seeing Rick's venture into a dead world is just captivating. Kirkman is able to tell a story with a lot of movement and still shots that can both shock and awe. Tony Moore's illustrations, my favorite of the Walking Dead series, use a lot of detail that really add a depth to the storytelling, which is only further enhanced by its black and white lines and hues. The story has zombies, but it's not really about zombies. There's real human drama in the narrative that makes it so iconic. It's the characters in the series, specifically in this volume, that keep the readers interested. You grow to care for the survivors all the way to the bitter end, and if The Walking Dead had ended with just this first volume, with this last scene, it would still be pretty impactful. It's like poetry in comic form. Read it. It's actually really good. If you feel like I have too many Green Lantern stories in these lists, then too bad. This is my list, and Green Lantern has left a lasting impression and continues to produce quality and meaningful story arcs. Part of the New 52 line of titles from DC, Green Lantern Volume 1 Sinestro is fun. It's just a fun story. I recommend that you read a couple of other stories in the Green Lantern library of books first to better understand what's happening in this story arc, especially understanding the complex bromance between Hal and Sinestro. But regardless, it is good Green Lantern storytelling that continues to add layers to the core. Sinestro is now reformed and must team with the once again disgraced Hal Jordan. God, Hal, how do you keep up fucking your job? In order to save the universe, yada yada yada. What makes this an essential read is that it showcases what a reinvention of long and consistent characters can be. It adds new dimension, new layers, and a new heightened motivation to a complex relationship between these two central characters in the actual DC universe. It's both fun to watch, and at a deeper level you can appreciate it. It humanizes the totalitarian character of Sinestro and makes you ask if he really is as bad as he's made out to be. The best stories are those that make you question if the bad guy is really such a bad guy. Plus, Doug Mahnke, I hope I said your last name right, I'm sorry, pencils some superb art that is just delightful to behold. A personal favorite and a really good start for the Green Lantern mythos when the New 52 started. Now, Superman and Batman have significant, memorable, and inspiring stories all their own, so when they come together, it's gotta be good, right? Well, it is, because Superman Batman was a monthly comic book series that was published by DC Comics that began in 2003, and it was kind of a modern update to the previous World's Finest comics, where both the Man of Steel and Dark Knight teamed up to solve crimes and basically beat up the bad guys. Older stories, but still really significant. This modern take on the Super Friends has many memorable volumes, which I own a majority of because these are really good stories, and which I will probably revisit in these lists. But one of my favorite stories from the line of team-ups, which I believe is also essential reading material, is Superman Batman Volume 7, The Search for Kryptonite. Besides its fast pace and refreshing pragmatism, basically Superman wising up and deciding to rid the world of kryptonite so he can do his job more effectively, it explores ethical dilemmas and the concept of real friendship and loyalty. The characters are written accurately and the themes of weaknesses and trust are expertly crafted into a rewarding and emotional narrative, all the way up to the twist at the end that just makes the search for kryptonite much more than what it originally seemed. It's the interactions between Clark and Bruce that really makes this excellent storytelling, and The Search for Kryptonite is essential reading for any diehard Superman and Batman fan. They're called the world's finest for a reason, and this story is perfect proof for that. Yup, more undead. Whereas DC had an emotionally charged crossover event that utilized zombified heroes and villains called The Blackest Night. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. Marvel also had some fun with the undead, specifically in their Marvel Zombies event. After all, what could be better than zombified X-Men and Fantastic Four? Hell yeah, I'll read that. Sign me up. Specifically, Robert Kirkman's Dead Days and Mark Millar's crossover and Frightful storylines, which are part of the Marvel Zombies Dead Days trade paperback, as you can see here, is essential reading and something you should own because it fuses the lore of the Marvel Universe with the fun and gory excitement of a zombie story. If you want to read something for Halloween, this is a great, festive read. Now, I'll be the first to admit that this storyline got way out of hand and was a bit campy and ridiculous toward the end, where all the good characters were basically gone. But Miller's Ultimate Fantastic Four universe being the catalyst to bringing the dread and chaos of a world ravaged by undead heroes is quite the sight to see, including the artwork, which was just glorious to behold, and seeing a not reformed Magneto, but basically Magneto now taking on hordes of the undead was something that was just awesome to actually watch and get to experience. Whereas Blackest Night had a glimmer of hope, the Marvel Zombies universe, it shared none of this. It was an unrelenting spook fest where all your favorite characters would and succeed in eating you. It's just captivating and interesting looking into the Marvel universe, and I really appreciated that. I mean, if you like Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, it's kind of like that, but with much higher stakes. It's not going to be one of the greatest stories of all time, but I do think it's essential to read, because again, what's the purpose of reading comic books? And half the time, it's for enjoyment. You will enjoy this. The artwork is good, and besides that, once you look deeper into it, there's some very memorable moments. And of course, you gotta have a next title. Jamie, Guido, Siren, Monet, Richter, Wolfsbane, Layla Miller. Whenever someone thinks of mutants or Marvel's X-Men, to the casual fan, these fans don't really mean anything. But one of the greatest X-Men affiliated stories ever produced, that many people have never heard of, is Peter David's gripping and cult hit X Factor Investigations. It's very important that we have the context for this. I mean, this is an X-Men, well, not X-Men, but this is an X story, right, with mutants that was able to bring in something else to the genre, whereas in the main storylines where you have Cyclops here reeling from the decimation event and a lot of the things that are going on for mutants, X Factor Investigations gave us something new. It gave us something edgy. It gave us something fun and something that just wasn't like what we had before. With its somber and melancholic tone to its homage of noir detective stories and the chilling use of light and shadow, this series is just fucking cool. The tone is pretty dark, but fluctuates with odd and misplaced humor that makes the story borderline self-aware and a little bit into absurdism. The art is perfect, the pace is perfect, but most importantly, the characters are unbelievably charming and exciting to watch as the story continues and continues. I never thought I would care for these characters, but as I watched Madrox do something self-destructive, or Monet say something inappropriate, or watch Layla just know things, makes this an unparalleled experience, both in story substance and memorable reading. You can read it again and again and again, and every time it's like you're revisiting a family that you haven't talked to in a while, but everything just kind of falls into place. And there are countless times that I've read these stories and I've laughed out loud, or I've cried when something terrible has happened. You feel invested in the characters, and I know I've said that before, but it's really not like these. They feel so realistic. They feel so real. You feel like you know them. So you grow to love these characters. And in that, the story is everything you would want out of a glorious reading experience. If anything else, X Factor Investigations, if you want to get into X-Men, but you really feel overwhelmed by the amount of stories that there are, check out Peter David's story. This is something that I promise you will not regret.